enjoy making films about expeditions and adventures, and this was an exciting story, traveling to Russia to go and climb the highest mountain in Europe, Mt Elbrus.
In the previous episode, Alex Harris and Sean Disney were in line to become the first South Africans to climb the 7 summits, the highest mountain on each continent. What they needed most to achieve this mountaineering prize was the highest summit of all, Mt Everest. A year earlier, Alex had achieved his 6th of the 7 summits by reaching the roof of North America, Mount McKinley. Sean Disney was alongside him. After 2 years of hard work and preparation, they had their sights set on the moment of glory at the top of the world and of writing South African 7 summits history. In mountaineering circles, firsts are everything, and being financially backed by the sponsor Discovery, very little could prevent Harris and Disney from reaching their goal. But their dreams were shattered. After 2 months of brutal hardship on the slopes, bad weather turned the team around, and the battered South African Discovery Everest expedition called it a day. Harris and Disney returned to base camp empty-handed.
When you make a decision to call an expedition off and leave Everest, it's a big thing. You take a lot into consideration. You know, the weather was bad, the forecast looked even worse, the monsoon was on its way, the team was beat. We'd given it 2 summit attempts. You know, we'd been up in the death zone for a couple of days. We'd been on the mountain for 2 months. We needed rest. There was so little on paper to keep us there. Everything was telling us it was time to go home.
It was the violent weather in the death zone above 8,000 meters that had beaten the team. Mt Everest had the final word. A few days later, Harris, Disney and 2 other members turned their backs on Everest and walked off the mountain, while the rest of the team waited out the bad weather for a helicopter to fly them out. 2 experienced American expeditions were making their way up the mountain and were about to take advantage of what would be the most stable weather of the season. The word from them was that the South Africans had left the mountain too early. An unexpected twist of fate was about to play out. Against the odds, the expedition cameraman Sean Wisedale felt strong enough to mount another attempt.
After 2 months of hardship on Everest, we'd got within 5 hours of the summit and then we were turned around. And I knew that there was some supplementary bottled oxygen left at the high camp from our last attempt. And after 3 days at base camp, away from the fatigue and away from the emotion of being turned around, I felt quite strong. And so I put it to the rest of the guys and I said, guys, how are you guys feeling? Are any of you keen to go back and maybe take advantage of this window? We can't communicate with Alex and Sean. They don't have a radio or satellite phone. But there may be an opportunity. Should we give it another shot? But none of them were keen.
Wisedale had little time to react and made a bold decision to go it alone. 2 hours later, the helicopter flew in to take the rest of the team out.
Sean can do some crazy things, and I thought, no, that isn't a good thing to do. And at first I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe he's coming back with another party or some. I just didn't think he was going to go on his own after all they'd been through, because as I understood it, they'd had a tough time. I mean, they were weak and they were coming home, and why is he saying no, he's going back up the hill? And it was a mixture of, is it really true? And if it's true, geez, that's maybe the last we see of Sean Wisedale.
As Sean was making his way, expedition leader Alex Harris was in a 5-star hotel in Kathmandu.
My reaction was one of anger, because we'd made a decision as a team to end the expedition. It was a tough one to make, and when you do that, you sacrifice your personal goals for the good of the team, and that's what teams are about. And he'd made an impulsive decision to go against what we'd agreed. And Everest is not a place where you make impulsive decisions. So it was. I think it was a bad decision.
It was only the bad weather that kept us from getting to the top. And now if there was going to be a weather window, I had supplementary bottled oxygen at the high camp. I was fit, strong and as well acclimatized as I could be after going up that mountain so many times. And I knew the route well. And I would never be able to live with myself if those Americans had got to the summit and I was sitting in a luxury hotel in Kathmandu. And so I had to work with my gut feel. I had to take advantage of this opportunity. And I left alone.
It didn't concern me so much being left alone with his skills and his abilities. What concerned me more was really how would the public perceive that an element of the team had been left by the rest of the team, when the reality was he had made a decision to stay there.
A few days later, in perfect weather, Shaun stepped onto the highest point on Earth, the summit of Mount Everest.
This was the highlight of my life. It was desperately nerve-wracking up there, but I'd made it. I'd got the South African flag up to the top, and it was flying at the highest point on Earth.
Wise, he's climbed Everest, and he'd sat up on that mountain for half an hour and absorbed the scene, and I guess he was up there adjusting and taking pictures, and it was a great moment for us here.
We were obviously elated when we finally got the news that Shaun had summited. It was a journey that we'd shared together for a long time. We had put in a lot of effort together, we had all worked together. And although we couldn't all share the summit, we were proud that at least one of the members of the team had made it to the top.
And in such a short turnaround from absolute failure, let's be honest, that Discovery mission had failed. Whatever way you look at it, weather closed in, whatever, it had failed. And Shaun rescued it, no doubt about it.
It was a process that brought about a result, and I guess the result is a good one. I was glad he was able to spend those few hours of a long journey that I couldn't.
It's one of those things that Shaun Wisedale does well, surprises you.
This was the turning point in Shaun Wisedale's career as a cameraman. Now he had a greater ambition.
It was never my lifetime dream or ambition to climb the 7 summits. I was always there to make the films, and I love making the pictures and capturing those images in the mountains. But when Alex or Shaun would have an opportunity to get back to Everest to complete the 7 summits was anyone's guess. So I took it on as my mission to not only climb the 7 summits but to shoot them as well.
It had taken Shaun 6 years to climb the 4 big ones of the 7 summits. Shaun's first summit was Mount Vinson in Antarctica, the loneliest, coldest continent of them all.
This was definitely the coldest I'd ever been. It was 50 degrees below zero, and my camera and my hands froze up on the summit while I was capturing these shots of Lawrence and Disney's celebrations.
Shaun's second summit of the 7 was Mount Aconcagua, the jewel of the Andes and the highest point in South America.
7,000 meters was the highest that I'd ever been, and it was amazing to experience that altitude. But it was only with sheer persistence that Sue Wadley and I had managed to get to the top.
Mount McKinley in Alaska, North America, was Shaun's third.
It was very tough because there are huge distances to haul your supplies, and we got up because we were determined and we were well prepared.
Mount Everest in the Himalayas is the ultimate challenge of the 7. The highest in Asia and on Earth. It was Shaun's fourth.
Everest is the highest and therefore the most dangerous. At the time, the statistics were 1 of every 7 who reached the summit didn't make it back off the mountain alive. It's by far the toughest of the 7, and reaching the top was a huge privilege, but it was because I was prepared and I took advantage of an opportunity that I ended up being lucky.
Sean had 3 to go to complete the 7. Mt Elbrus in Europe, Carsten's Pyramid in Australasia, and Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa.
On every expedition, I was always the cameraman, the filmmaker, the guy who was capturing the images and the emotion and the action and the beautiful scenics in the mountain. But that was all going to change. Now I was going to be the one in front of the lens. I was going to have to be a bit of a performer. And that came with its own set of challenges. I set out to go and climb the highest mountain in Europe, which is Mt Elbrus in Russia, and hopefully complete my 5th of the 7.
From Johannesburg in South Africa, Sean will fly to Moscow in Russia. Mount Elbrus lies in the Caucasus mountain range between the Caspian and the Black Sea, extending 5,642 meters into the frosty atmosphere. Elbrus is not particularly high or technical in comparison to any other of the 7 summits, but it does demand the ability to deal with the cold and the volatile weather.
Reaching Mt Elbrus is fairly simple. Expeditions can be booked over the internet. And in my case, I was fortunate enough to meet Marina Urshova, a mountain guide from St. Petersburg who had climbed Mt Elbrus 17 times. She had brought some of her friends along. They were Alexander Matveev, Lena Folskrinskaya, and Olga Emelina. I was the foreigner on the team.
Russia, home to Vladimir Lenin, Stoloknaya vodka, and of course, Mount Elbrus. Moscow is an architect's, an historian's, and a romantic's dream. Fascinating relics abound amidst this foundation of communism. Not that much of it can be understood though, and especially if you don't read Cyrillic. Less than 2 decades ago, these areas were cordoned off to the rest of the world. But now Red Square is a bustling cosmopolitan of chic brands.
Well, in the background is Red Square, and what a privilege to be able to visit such an historical site. And well, I can't wait to get to the mountain and just continue with this amazing cultural experience. I've really been looking forward to Russia, and yeah, it's really a great place.
After a tour of the capital, it's time to go climbing.
So these were my new Russian friends who I was about to spend the next week with. They were quite unsure of who I was with this big camera on my shoulder. So to break the ice, I offered them some South African beef biltong, but I wasn't telling them that it was beef. Marina, how is crocodile meat?
Yes, it's very nice and interesting.
Marina was very good at being polite.
Very good crocodile meat.
How many times have you been to Elbrus?
I did 17
Elbrus.
times, yes. I like Elbrus and I like mountain. For me it's interesting, and Of course, maybe not very interesting mountain, and I like to see people in the mountains.
But you do a lot of climbing.
Чего ничего не понял.
You climb a lot, eh? In your home.
Climb. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
This whole big bag here, is this all of your cigarettes?
This is not cigarette, and this is present for my friends in Baksan Valley. And this is radio, telephone, and shoes, sport shoes.
How is weather in Elbrus?
I hope we will have a good weather, but I don't know.
And Alexandra is drinking a lot of vodka?
Very good.
Like
Is it true that if you drink a lot of vodka, you're going to the top very quickly?
No, I don't think so.
I believe Russians drink vodka for breakfast.
Yes, really. Okay, we will see, maybe.
The team flies south to a town called Mineralny Vodya. From there, they will take a 5-hour drive to the base of Mt Elbrus, from where the climb begins.
I always find this part of the journey quite exciting because there are always loads of new sights and sounds, and you don't really know what's at the end of the road or really how big Mt Elbrus is. The hotel was all a little bit overwhelming, and it kind of resembled the home of Frankenstein, but it was clean and quite well maintained.
The route up Elbrus will take no more than a week. From the barrel huts, the route leads to Camp 1 at 4,000 meters, then Camp 2 at 4,600, and from there the team will go for the summit at 5,642 meters. Before the climb begins, an acclimatization trek up to 3,500 meters takes place, mostly by cable car.
This is the first section here, and we take a cable car up to about 2,700, and then we climb, we do about 3 or 4 hours just to do a bit of acclimatization climb today. Beautiful weather, and yeah, really looking forward to a really pleasant day, and so far going very, very well.
As the team ascends, the green hills are gradually replaced by dry rock and gravel. The gentle incline leads to a lookout at 3,000 meters. Lena and Marina are former members of the Russian Himalayan climbing team. But Lena hasn't climbed since she lost the full use of her left hand in a motor accident a decade ago.
What's your left stick?
My left hand don't work, and left stick only for appearance. I with Maria, we was member Russian Himalayan team.
And you were running here before?
Running on Elbrus run by team.
How are you feeling at the moment?
Nice.
You feel better in the mountain?
Month better.
Lena had been to the summit of Elbrus many times. Without the use of her left hand now, she faced a much greater challenge.
Although I'd been up to the summit of Everest just 10 weeks earlier, I was still feeling the effects of the altitude.
To To put it into perspective, the summit of Mt Elbrus is roughly at the same altitude as the base camp on Mt Everest. Theoretically, Elbrus should be a breeze for Sean.
Behind us, for the first time, we get to see Elbrus. It was hidden by the cloud, so we see right up between the eye of the cloud and up to the summit. There's two summits up there, an eastern and western peak. So the one that we're doing is the western peak. Magnificent view.
The team head back down to make final preparations for the climb.
It was a good day. We climbed up to about 3,400 meters, 500 meters, somewhere around there. And yeah, now we're back at the hotel, just getting our stuff together and ready to head up tomorrow. Probably head up to about 4,000 tomorrow, yeah. So that's where we are at the moment.
Marina goes about making sure that all the stoves are working well. All the supplies, cooking utensils, stoves and fuel are self-ported on Elbrus. There are no Sherpas or porters here. Then there's the food.
What do you want to buy?
I want to buy only sugar and tea and maybe coffee. Or some cakes maybe. And chocolate. Yes. And I have meat and sausage and cheese and bread. It's enough. Ah, yes, cucumbers, salt cucumbers. And wine.
And you, Sasha, what are you worrying about?
About weather. In the mountains, all weather is good. For example, if you snowing, it's very nice. You can stay in the tent and drink wine and drink tea and drink coffee all days. It's good. You have a free day. And if you have good weather, okay, we climb up. This is good for mountain. And don't worry about weather.
I had a few things of my own to worry about. I was taking a spare camera, batteries and a satellite phone. All in all, about 25 kilograms of gear.
Food is fuel, and the best way to acclimatize is to eat.
What do you buy here, Marina, for the mountain?
Salt cucumbers, good for vodka, good for brandy, good for acclimatization. I like it.
How much food are you going to need here, Marina, for how many days?
How many days? I want for 3-4 days, or maybe late. We will see. I think enough for 3 days. I think this is only for one evening, Sean, not for 3 days.
What do you like to eat on the mountain?
Porridge. No, this joke. I like chicken, I like cucumbers, I like tomatoes, I like bread. Not porridge. I don't like porridge, but every time I eat porridge.
Mount Elbrus has no permit system. It's open to anyone who can afford a cable car ticket. For this reason, the public have free access to the slopes. Marina was trying her best to get the team onto the first cable car before the mad rush.
Sean comes.
Come on, Marina.
Вот, and... Да, то мы договорились, но сейчас я вам еще... Please, quickly.
The first cable car runs up to 3,000 meters. Now, that's if it gets there. These cars have outlived their sell-by date by more than a few years and often experience mechanical failure mid-air.
Sometimes,
Sometimes it's broken.
sometimes it is broken, but we hope that we climb up, we go up without accidents.
Okay, so we come up one cable car so far, and we're up at 3,000 meters. Now we take another one up to about 3,700, I believe it is, somewhere around there. And well, it wasn't too bad, not bad. And yeah, we move on the next one from there.
When the weather is good, the snow cap of Mt Elbrus becomes a massive tourist attraction, so the queue to get onto the cable car can often be quite long. Despite the chilly temperatures, the local expression, "there's no such thing like bad weather, only bad attitude," was being taken quite literally by this tourist.
Do you have some clothes or maybe some jacket? And he says me, no, no need.
The real irony here was that this fellow thought that Sean looked out of place. The comedy continued. So starved are these Georgian tourists of sunshine that for them frolicking in the snow half naked is likened to basking on a tropical beach.
In the process of all this bizarre behavior, I was getting sidetracked.
Okay, Sean, please follow us to the mountain.
The first day starts at 3,700 meters and ends at the site of Camp 1 at 4,000 meters. Once at the camp, the girls were having big problems with their large 3-woman tent.
What tent is this?
This marmot tent, but I don't know what's this. Очень неприлично, да? А ты знаешь, пока не хочу.
Once set up, it was time to digest some of Marina's Russian delicacies.
It's Russian doping. Russian doping.
Russian what?
Russian doping. Колбаса.
And then it was time for a good night's rest. The next morning revealed some spectacular scenery.
So what are we doing today, Marina?
We try to go up. Sometimes it is possible. Now, no. Okay, maybe after half hours we go up. And then we make a camp and another rest for us. And eat and drink and prepare for the next day.
The team head up to 4,700 meters to situate Camp 2. The route is a steady plod up a groomed ski slope, and it's hardly a tough climb. But Elbrus's great altitude can be deceptive.
I'd always thought that Elbrus was going to be quite easy to climb, but I quickly changed my mind and my approach. The invisible enemy here is the altitude.
Marina was in her element, going for her 18th summit.
A few hours later, we'd met a team who were returning from the summit, and the news was that a Ukrainian climber had just died in the Sedluina saddle at 4,900 meters.
Есть, конечно, но плохая там.
Не рассказывай здрасте. Horrible, terrible.
Начинает стекаться, да, если есть возможность. Я не встретил. Думаю, ну может они повернули.
How's your feeling about this guy who died here last night?
Well, sad, obviously. It's never good if someone dies. I mean, I don't really know the real story, besides the fact that the guy camped in the saddle, which is quite a high altitude, depending on how many days of acclimatization he had. So it's sad, obviously, but it happens.
The climber had suffered cerebral edema and instead of descending rapidly, had spent the night up high. Sadly, it was his last night.
А, мы сначала связались, а потом развязались. Потому что видимость вроде лучше стала. И мы развязались, я думаю, ну нахрен надо там подальше. И короче идем, сюда вот уже вышли на выкат. Я уж на этих поляках чувствую матом.
5 hours later, the team arrives at the site of Camp 2. Lena was showing the determination, will and experience to get to the top, but the altitude was slowing her pace.
At the moment we're at 4,700. Got a bit of a headache coming on here. Got into the tent before the wind started, which is a bit of an advantage, I suppose. Good weather, except for the wind. There's a bit of a cold front forecast for the next day or two, so we're just hoping to get up there tomorrow. A bit of a load to carry today, packed with all my camera gear and sat phone batteries and food and tent, gas. A little bit whacked at the moment, but other than that, looking forward to tomorrow.
I took a stroll over to the girls' tent to see how they were doing.
We start tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Not late, Sean, not late. And for you, enough 1 hour for collect your things. And we start from here at 5. For me, enough 1 hour. Okay, we start at 5 o'clock from here and go up with shoes and crampons and with sticks. But please take your ice axe and enough. And I take a rope, 1 rope for 4 person, enough for us. And we go up from here. I think for us it's need 6 hours to the top. Because we are strong, we are good, we have a good acclimatization. Yeah. And maybe stay half hours on the top and come back 2-3 hours.
Marina was optimistic about reaching the summit the next day. Too optimistic as it happens, because during the night the weather deteriorated into a gale and no one got any sleep. By the morning it was no better. The three-woman tent had taken a beating during the night. The poles had snapped and the fly sheet was shredded. All attempts to repair the tent are fruitless, and without a spare one, Lena and Olga decide to call it a day and head back down. The priority in the worsening weather is to get Olga and Lena down quickly. Marina crams into Sean and Alex's tent, and they wait out another night for a break in the weather and an opportunity to go for the summit.
It's almost typical. For a summit bid. Trying to get some sleep, but the wind's just howling so badly now. Maybe a very little chance that that's going to happen. It's 11 o'clock and we're to 10 to 5.
By 5 o'clock in the morning, the wind seems to have dropped, and they decide to take a bash at the summit. It's 6 frosty hours to the top, and 3 back down.
Come first light, the wind was howling, and the chill was really making the going tough.
We're at 4,800. Got another 800 to go. Temperature's at about 10 degrees below at the moment. There's quite a bit of wind, but we're doing well. And yeah, should be on the summit in about 4 or 5 hours.
The Caucasus began to unfold all around us, and as the sun rose, I shot this awesome pic of the shadow of Elbrus extending over the range. As we got nearer the top, there were other climbers who were making their way up the Sedluina Saddle, which is that last steep stretch before the summit pyramid. I was frozen and exhausted, but what a moment it was to see Marina taking the last few steps up onto the top to meet Alex. Though this was her 18th time, I knew it felt like it was her first. I carried on up and I met them on the highest point in Europe. What a view and what a celebration.
Are you happy?
Yes,
How-
very happy. Like it. It's very short and well, it's nice. You have a good time. Submit. It's very fast. It's nice.
I handed Marina my camera and she took these trophy shots of me posing at the summit beacon.
It's good.
Yes.
Yeah, keep putting.
Yeah.
What a day! Oh, what a view! This is amazing!
So I capped number 5, and I was very happy about that. Before I left for Elbrus, I thought it was going to be a breeze, an easy mountain, but it wasn't. It was actually very cold, and there was a hell of a lot of wind. But I was beginning to think that I'd broken the back of the 7 summits. I had 2 to go, and I was in for a few surprises.
In the next episode, watch as Sean and the team take on Carsten's Pyramid, the highest mountain in Australasia. Carsten's is a 900 vertical meter adrenaline-injected limestone peak that protrudes out of the equatorial jungle of Papua. Civil war, terrorism, and a local gold mine prevent the team from reaching base camp, but an Indonesian agent manages to find a loophole.
At the moment I'm shaking and there's a lot of adrenaline going through.
Both local guides turn around with altitude sickness. Working against the clock, will the team manage to get through?